All right. Go ahead, Dr. Kaylee Ann. Thank you very much, everyone, for waiting.
Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's doing wonderful this evening. I am so proud to have this panel with me tonight. And if you have been with us on our other shows, then you will know these are doctors that I know, love, and trust. Most of these doctors I've actually broken bread with. That's how well I know these doctors. And these are doctors that they have integrity. They're committed to growth. Most of the doctors that I'm proud to say that are in my circle, they spend a lot of their time actually growing and growing for you. They're very authentic. These people are the true seekers out there. And we are dealing with a lot out there, we know, with COVID-19. And it has been my honor and pleasure to try to bring you the best information out there with the best leaders that I know to help you deal with all aspects, all facets of this. And at the end of the day, we all hope that you achieve some kind of enlightenment. We hope it brings you health. We hope it brings you wellness. And we certainly hope it brings you peace. So I've tracked the numbers. As you know, at the beginning of all these programs, I track and see how the numbers are. We know the 5 top hot spots, the 5 top states, and I see there's a lot of people that are from those states, states like New York, states like New Jersey. Michigan has now climbed in there as well, Dr. Birkin, so as you know. So this is a really real thing. And when this first started, I didn't really quite know how to take this. And I've been studying a lot of the doctors out there and trying to discern what is the difference between this and the regular flu, and how can we really navigate this? So instead of starting with the numbers this week, and I did get them and they are climbing, as I said, let's talk about instead how we can deal with this big white elephant in the room, which is we are all so action oriented as humans, and we don't know how to move forward and push through the limitations that we seem to have because there's just so many unknowns. So we're all going through all these different emotions, and I believe a lot of it has to do with the fact that, again, we have unknowns with our health and well-being. We have unknowns with our finances. We have unknowns with our surroundings and what we used to know as our constants. We have these pleasure points that we had, that a lot of these pleasure points, we have to kind of reset all that because, you know, I can tell you for myself, one of the pure joys that I had was going and getting a matcha in the morning, going to the coffee shop, getting that matcha, that going to the gym afterwards. You know, we had these routines, we had these things, and I didn't realize how much pleasure and how much that was an integral part of who I am. So the bottom line is we're damn well displaced right now. We are displaced human beings. So how do we update our beliefs? How do we recategorize and reorganize our life? How do we find joy? And most importantly, how do we feel safe? Aren't we lucky? Because tonight I have a panel of experts that can pull you out of the tunnel and give you answers to these questions. Dr. Joan Rosenberg, Dr. Nicole Birkins, Dr. Sharon Melnick, Nick Ortner, and Deborah Wayne. Welcome, welcome. So I want to go over and read their bios. And, you know that a lot of times when I'm listening to things and the bios come on, I just want to get to the meat. But these people are just so well achieved and have done so much in the interest of you that I want to read to you some of the things that they've done. Dr. Joan Rosenberg is a best-selling author, consultant, and master clinician. Dr. Joan Rosenberg is a cutting-edge psychologist who is known as an innovative thinker, acclaimed speaker, and trainer. She's a 2-time TED speaker and member of the Association of Transformational Leaders. She's been recognized throughout her career in influence and personal development. A California licensed psychologist, Dr. Rosenberg speaks on how to build confidence, how to deal with emotional strength or gain emotional strength, resilience, and how to achieve emotional conversation and relationship mastery. And there's a lot more here. You know, she's an Air Force veteran. She's a professor at Pepperdine University. She has a book that everyone should read. It's 90 Seconds to a Life You'll Love, How to Master Your Difficult Feelings and Cultivate Lasting Confidence, Resilience, Authenticity. It was released in 2019. She is pretty awesome. So I can tell you that I went through a personal event in my life, and there's people here that are with us tonight, and you will find out at some point this event that I went through that was catastrophic for me. And I had my panel of doctors around me. Dr. Joan Rosenberg was one of those people. The thing about Joan, I will tell you flat out, there's no BS with her. There's no BS. She gets right to it. She is on point all the time. I'm proud to have you here.
Honored, thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Nicole Berkins. Dr. Berkins is one of my best friends. She and I have broke bread many times as I went through this a misfortune. She, got on a plane. She flew to see me under not the best situation and circumstances. And she was there as a guiding light, sitting next to me, did not leave, left her children. She's a mother of 4. She's got a very busy practice. She got on that plane and she was there. That's what kind of doctor Dr. Berkins is. So she has a unique combination. She's a psychologist, nutritionist, and a special education teacher. Dr. Nicole Berkins has over 22 years of experience supporting children, young adults, families to improve behavior naturally. She's an expert in evaluating. Pardon me? Okay, here yours is around. Okay, she's an expert in evaluating and treating a wide range of learning, mood, and behavior changes, including ADHD, autism, anxiety, mood disorders, and brain injury. Dr. Nicole has a doctorate in clinical psychology, a master's degree in special education and nutrition, and is a board-certified nutrition specialist. She has a practice in Grand Rapids, Michigan. She has done so many different things. She has a husband and 4 kids, and she's just flat out awesome. And if you have any issue with kids ever, she is the go-to. She is the go-to. And I have to say, I know I just said this about Dr. Rosenberg. There ain't no BS going on with her either. I've been crying on the other end of the phone with her plenty of times. She's like, this is how it is, Kellyanne. I'm so proud to have you here today.
Thank you.
Now, Nick Ortner. So Nicholas Ortner, I have to tell you, he did something that was so cutting edge and so before everyone's time. He started this tapping summit thing, which you're going to learn more about. And he lassoed in the world. And he lassoed in the world because he was able to understand immediate healing power. He is one of those people who allows you to use your body to get to the bottom line. And I'm so happy to have him. He is the CEO of the Tapping Solution, a company with a mission to bring into the mainstream a simple, effective, natural healing method known as emotional freedom technique. I want everyone to write that down. Emotional freedom technique. It's a simple, effective, natural healing method, and it combines modalities such as ancient Chinese medicine, modern psychology, lots of good stuff. His goal is to empower people to create healthy, abundant, stress-free lives through his books, films, CDs, online events, and speaking engagements. He's also, no joke, he is a New York Times best-selling author of The Tapping Solution, a revolutionary system for stress-free living. And he has this app that everyone has to have. I took a picture of it. It's on my other phone here, but the app is called the Tapping Solution app, right?
That's it. Nice and simple, just the Tapping Solution. Yep.
The Tapping Solution. Everyone get your phone right now and download it. Seriously, get your phone and download it. So this is really awesome to have you here. Deborah Wayne. So we have Deborah Wayne here. And Deborah, okay, if there was the nicest person in the world in a book somewhere, Deborah's the nicest person in the world. Okay, so I got people who kick the crap out of me on this panel. She's the nicest person in the world. And so she's done a lot for me. Again, she has helped me through some unfortunate times as well. And she is just a lovely human being who his total commitment to healing the globe. So happy to have you here. She's the founder and CEO of the International Chronic Pain Institute. She's an internationally renowned speaker and energy healer who specializes in helping women to release the hidden root causes of chronic pain, anxiety, depression, trauma, and people who battle with weight, binge eating, burnout, and many different things. She had her own personal healing that she had to go through, and she's helped many people in 150 countries to overcome pain and get their energy back. She's just done so many things. She's the creator of Pain-Free Living Program. You're going to learn a lot more about her. And if you want to learn anything about energy medicine, there you go. She's your woman. You're going to learn why you want to know about energy medicine. Dr. Sharon Melnick. I love you, Dr. Sharon Melnick. I mean, okay, now if there was somebody if there was a dictionary out there that said the smartest person in the whole world, Sharon might show up. Sharon is really bright and together, and she has done a lot of work with Harvard University and learning these different systems and methodologies that she puts into place. She's a leading authority on stress resilience. She is informed by 10 years of psychology research at Harvard Medical School. Her methods have transformed professionals over 100 Fortune 500 companies, numerous small businesses. Her speeches have created buzz at conferences around the world, and she's presented at the White House, just to name a few places, and the United Nations. And I have logged in many hours with this woman on the phone. She's my personal go-to therapist, and I appreciate you a lot. And I'm so honored to have you, such a rock star. Thanks for being here. So let's dive in. So I want you to have connective tissue to the people that are on the program, and that's why I spend time doing that. Let's start with you, Dr. Joan Rosenberg. Let's go right to it. So a lot of us are experiencing all these emotions, which we talked about. And I think people can relate to this particular situation that I'm dealing with. I think a lot of people are going through the same thing. I am obligated to understand and to know what's going on out there. That means getting the data, being out there, knowing, but I want to stay in this heightened state of knowledge. But I also want to be able to deal with this pragmatically. How do we deal with all this intense information out there, Dr. Rosenberg, and not go out of our mind and crazy? So how do we stay heightened in our information, but at the same time, how do we not stress out and let this carry us away?
Well, it's a little bit of redirect from what I was initially going to say, but that's
say whatever
totally
you
fine.
want to say.
No. Well, we may circle back to it in terms of what you and I chatted about yesterday. But I think that what I want to start with is that you have to find a balance so that it's one of the things to keep in mind is that it's Dr. Heal Thyself. So you and anybody in your position or our positions has to be engaged in significant self-care. And the old metaphor of you put your mask on first in terms of the airplane metaphor, so that you're engaged in quite a bit of self-care as you're gathering the knowledge. So one of the things I would say is what becomes very important is that you are actually very well connected to yourself. You have a sense of what the truth of your own experience is, meaning the sadness or the feelings of helplessness or the anger or the disappointment, the sense of loss, the sense of vulnerability, all those different kinds of things. And from an emotional standpoint, and also from a physical standpoint, having a sense of your own cues for when you're amped up. So that what you can do then, and so others may speak to this, Deborah Wayne and Nick and May in particular, but that you want to have your parasympathetic system calm down. You want to be in a calmer state, and you have to know kind of your triggering signals, what it feels like in you, and then be able to kind of modulate that. And one of the ways that certainly as you're gathering information, I would want you to do is to do that in contained sorts of ways, so that you're neither, again, you're not going to go towards the ignoring end, right? But what I would rather have you do is not go to the obsessive end either. And so that what you're doing is you're going, all right, I'm gonna check at these 3 different points during the day. The moment I hear a repeat on any news broadcast, that gets shut off and I'm done. So that it's 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes max. Then what you're allowing yourself to do is to incorporate the information, think about what you need to think about, and then move on. But that allows your system to then be in a calmer state in between all those other times.
I think it takes a lot of personal resilience right now, Dr. Rosenberg. Would you not agree with that?
100%, 100% of resilience. And the thing that struck me about this time, Kellyanne, is that we are all going through, and this is a global experience, a profound state of loss. And in fact, the losses are too innumerable to mention. But we've got the big ones. We have a virus we can't understand and can't see, that's insidious and invisible. And we don't even understand fully who's infected and who's not. We have a challenge right smack because of it and alongside of it, which has to do with the loss of work and the loss of wages. Then we have loss of, you were talking about loss of predictability. The normal every day, I'm going into my gym and getting my tea, right? Gone. So, and again, the losses, the list of that loss would continue. And what's challenging about that is loss tends to evoke prior loss. So it's not just this sadness or experience of helplessness or anger or disappointment. In these moments, it's whatever else it triggers simultaneously. So go ahead.
Yep. So how do we manage that feeling of loss? How do we take that moment of loss and how do we flip it?
Well, what becomes, from my perspective, it's super important to acknowledge the truth of it, number one. Because when we ignore it and we try to act like it's not there, it starts to show up as anxiety. And again, we may come around to this, but so that what I want people to do instead is stay present to the feeling, allow it to move through you the best you can. And again, I know Nick will speak to this and Deborah will speak to this very specifically. And that you hold what I would call resilient attitudes and focus on the resources that you do have, both internally in terms of your capacity to handle the unpleasant feelings, internally from the standpoint of attitudes, such as I'm going to take this experience or any life experience I have, and I'm going to turn it into a learning experience. That's a resilient attitude. And again, there's many more that I can capture, but asking for help is a way to be resilient, so that I'm not going to try to do everything alone. I know that being resourceful in life means that I have the capacity to lean on others and ask for help. That's a way to boost up resilience.
I think you brought up a good point. You brought up a really good point about not going this alone, because a lot of us are not only isolating our bodies, but we're isolating our emotions and our feelings. And I think that's really an important part that you address, because we're not meant for that. We're not built for that.
Right. Well, and the way I would see this is I would actually clarify the language around it. It's physical distance plus social connection. So I would never call this social distance. It's physical distance. But physical distance plus social connection.
Dr. Melnick, you talk about these emotional triggers, and right now, you are all about empowerment. And I would say that you're one of the leading authorities on power and empowerment. And right now we're being triggered in so many different ways. I mean, you and I have discussed like this fear and panic, this disconnection to purpose, relationships. How do we stay on track? And through this scenario, how do we feel empowered?
Yeah, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. So let me just take a step back and kind of start with the basics about this. So what you're talking about in terms of like the information overload and all the reactivity is that, when you're in a state of stress, that begets more reactivity, right? And it's almost like we're kind of drunk driving like through this. It's like we don't even know, like we're the last to know that we're kind of caught up on that stress cycle, right? So everything that you can do to try to counterbalance that with some of the kind of off button activities is going to be very important. It's also going to help you to get your kind of more objective thinking back. So just in terms of the basics of dealing with the anxieties and the stress and the out of controlness is that, we only experience stress when there's aspects of a situation that feel out of our control, right? And so the very first thing that you want to do if you find yourself panicking or, in a state of reactivity is, I just kind of made this quick and dirty as Joan was talking, is I want you to actually think of this diagram. Can you kind of see that? And
Yeah.
it just encourages you to sort out any situation. Kind of above the line is, what are the aspects of the situation you can control? And I call this like your 50%, like anything that you can control or influence, what you bring to the situation. And to distinguish that from the aspects of the situation below the line, like what's out of your control, what's in the other 50%. Now, in this situation, all our attention is being pulled to the things that we can't control, which is literally putting us on that stress cycle. And also, when you focus on things that you can't control, you lose your power. You lose your power, you lose your life force, your ability to kind of stay in your flow, to feel like, you're the one who's deciding what you're going to think and how you're going to act, and to feel like you can actually have an impact to make at least the microcosm around you that you want. So that's why it's so important really to maximize on what you can control, even as we're appreciating how much of things, aren't in our control. And a kind of a mantra that you can use really just to remember this is, be impeccable for your 50%. Be impeccable for your 50%. And so really focus, your attention and your energy and your learnings on what it is that you can control. And even for the things that you can't control, what can you influence? And if you can't, then even when it feels like there's nothing that you can control, as we're going to be talking about for the rest of the program here, you can control the way that you feel, in your body about it, just your own expectations. You can dig deep into your own kind of spiritual beliefs and the things that help you make meaning of why things happen in life, right? And so if you're thinking to yourself, well, what can I control here? There's always, always, always three things that you can control. You can control your own physiology, right? You can keep yourself in a state of calm. You can control your own psychology, those 60,000 thoughts a day. We know that actually being optimistic or feeling like you have a sense of control, it even helps a healthy immune system. Right? And you can also control your own problem solving or performance, and like as a leader in these times, you create the weather on your team. As a parent, you create the weather in your household, right? And, there's ways of continuing to stay visible in your career, even virtually. There's ways of pivoting in your business where you can figure out what people need and how you can. So there's actually, even when it seems like there's so much we can't control and that's getting us triggered, there's always, always, always control your physiology, your psychology, and or your problem solving.
I love that. And that's so important. And Dr. Berkens, what about the kids? How do we explain the virus to the kids in a way that they understand what's happening, and without them turning into a hypochondriac and feeling, germ phobic and crazy? Like how do we talk to them?
Well, the first thing for everybody who's listening to keep in mind is that just by even being here tonight, exposing yourself to this information about how you can work on managing your own stress and anxiety as an adult, by far the best thing we can be doing for kids. Because to Sharon's point about, as parents, we control the weather in our home. The best thing that we can do as parents, as people working with children, is to manage our own thoughts and emotions around this, because the more calm and sort of centered we stay with this whole thing, kids learn that they know how to gauge how anxious and distressed they should be based on what they see us doing as adults. So when parents and people working with kids are staying pretty even-keeled and factual but calm and measured in their response, then kids will respond in the same way. So that's the first thing to keep in mind, is that we need to not be overreactive. We need to be managing our own anxiety and stress. When talking with kids about something where there are a lot of unknowns, or even topics that can be complicated like this virus, it's really important to talk about it in a way that is developmentally appropriate for them. So obviously the way that we talk to a 3-year-old is going to be different than how we talk to a 15-year-old, but we need to be careful about that, because sometimes we have adult level conversations about things and kids can hear that, and it can be scary for them if we use a lot of words that they don't understand, if we get really escalated in our own emotions about it. So certainly when we're talking to young kids, using simple language that they can understand. There's a sickness that people are getting. Most people are just getting like a cold or a flu and they're getting better from it. Some people, especially people like grandma and grandpa's age, some of them are getting really sick and need to go to the hospital. And that's why we need to focus on staying home right now. You're not going to school. We're washing our hands a lot, giving some information, but then focusing very quickly on what it is that they and we can control about the situation. And keeping it simple and not overdoing our explanations. Obviously, as kids get older, especially as they get into the teen years, giving more information and details, it's a good starting point, especially for elementary and older kids, to say, hey, what do you already know about this? Just as a point of testing to see what have they heard, what have they been reading about, because they're online, they're hearing from, friends on social media. So asking them what they know or what they've heard, and then using that to start the discussion and being honest and factual. It is not helpful to say things to kids like, oh, this is nothing to worry about. Kids are allowed to have the feelings that they have about it, and we need to acknowledge that. And we don't want to downplay it or not express any concern, because that's not factual and that's not true. But being clear about where they can get good information about things, making sure they know that you as the parent or the teacher or whoever wants to be in communication with them, wants to be a factual, accurate source of information, that they can bring their questions and their concerns, and that you'll listen to them. And also being honest when we don't know, because to your point earlier, there's a lot that we don't know about this, and being able to say, I don't know, no one knows right now, but when I have information about that, I'll make sure to share it with you. And that may be information about the virus or the illness specifically, or it may be things like, am I going back to school at all this year? Am I going to be able to finish dance or baseball season? When can I see my friends again? Those are questions that we don't know the answers to at this point. And so we need to be honest about that, but let them know that we will keep them informed, because that's really helpful in reducing kids' stress and anxiety when they know that we are going to give them information. We're going to make sure that they know what's important to them as that information becomes available.
What about all the screen time that, a lot of parents are really battling that right now? How is that handled? How would you manage that in your home?
It's interesting, because one of the companies that I do some work with has been tracking this with their online platform ever since they happen to be based in Europe, but they also have a platform in the US, and they've been tracking screen time increases since Europe started with the lockdowns and schools being closed and all of that. And what they started to see in Italy several weeks ago is that kids' internet use was going up 70 to 100%. And now we're seeing that data over the last 2 weeks in the US as well. Children's internet use has easily doubled in most parts of the country. Now, some of that may be due to schools providing things online that kids need to be doing, but a lot of it is kids, suddenly families being thrown into having 24 hours a day now with their kids at home, parents trying to work, trying to figure out how to navigate this. And that's okay for a short period of time. But the problem is that as that goes on, excessive use of digital media and digital devices can really create a lot of problems. And it looks like This is going to go on longer than any of us initially thought, with kids being home from school. Right before I got on this session with all of you, we got information from our school district that Michigan is shutting down schools now for the rest of the year. Our kids are not going back. And that, I think, is going to, happen throughout the country. So we need to look at the long game here and realize no longer is this just, well, how do I navigate screen time over these 2 weeks? Probably not that big a deal. And say, wow, we need to, find some balance here, because it really is about balance. Even when kids are doing schoolwork online, we want to be thinking about having them go back and forth throughout the day between screen time and non-screen activities. That's what's best for their physical health, their mental health, and their learning. The research is really clear that overuse of screen time, overuse of devices leads to increased mental health problems, anxiety, depression, impulsive behavior, hyperactivity, just behavior problems in general, as well as the physical problems of, having too sedentary a lifestyle, weight gain, prone to other kinds of health problems. So we need to be looking at how to find balance. And so parents need to be a model for that as well, of putting down the devices throughout the day to do other things. They need to be having some kind of time limits or activity limits, where if you're going to spend some time on screens, then you're going to also spend some time off screens. And please, from a safety perspective, if you have devices in the home that kids are using now that you have not put at least basic content controls and filters on them, now is the time to do that. Kids have a lot more time on their hands. Even unintentionally, they can access really dangerous, damaging kinds of things. And unfortunately, in a scenario like this, there are people who will prey on that. So we are seeing increases in internet predators and just lots of unsafe things that kids can access. So it's really important for parents to look at how to use the parental controls on the devices, using third-party apps that monitor that, at least from a safety standpoint.
Okay, I just want to ask the panel this, for just flat out anxiety. And Deborah, we'll get to this with you. We'll dig a little deeper, but for flat out anxiety, because the constant theme that I hear, I'm hearing the panel talk, and it seems like the through line is this anxiety, and it's diverting from this anxiety. Dr. Rosenberg, if you could tell everyone, what would be the one thing that you would tell people if they're saying, and I'm telling you, I've had people questions, and every question, if you dismantle it and deconstruct it, it's, I am anxious. What would you tell them, Dr. Rosenberg?
I would tell them to change their language.
Okay.
That's part of the way that I think through the notion of fear and anxiety is to understand, and I go with psychology's basic definition, but we have to also understand that the way we use words affects our physiology. So it does affect how we experience actual experiences. So certain words have certain meanings, brings up certain experiences. So fear, I think, from a psychology standpoint, they describe as danger in the moment right now. So if people are not in danger in the moment right now, meaning they have food, they have shelter, they have connection, they have resources, whatever it might be, then I would say, please don't use that word, because it helps activate that state. Anxiety, again, what is considered diffuse apprehension of the future. So I'm worried about some bad event happening in the future. Well, that's really that's an accurate depiction, really, of what's going on right now. It's the diffuse apprehension. It's unpredictable. I don't know what's going to happen. None of us do. Schools are now getting closed for, rather than a month, it's now 3 months, whatever it might be. So it fits, except I think there's a word that when I've told people to use, or not told people, offered it up for people to use, it seems to resonate more accurately. And that is this idea that we're vulnerable. So this notion that I could be hurt. And there's something about changing it from anxiety, because if I were to ask 10 people what anxiety meant to them, I would get 10 different answers. But if they acknowledge,
I instantly felt a release within me when we were talking about, when you said the word vulnerable. So it does, I think it has an immediate release a feel in the body.
Right. So that's the word that I would have people recognize, is that we are all vulnerable. Every one of us is vulnerable right now. Any one of us could get hurt. And again, I break that down further, but for now, the word choice that I would encourage people to use is to recognize the vulnerability. And what the one other piece with anxiety for me is, I also think that anxiety, the word anxiety, is a cover for unpleasant feelings in general. So if you're not feeling vulnerable, and you're describing yourself as anxious, then what I would propose is that you're actually dealing with a variety of other possible unpleasant feelings that might be grief or something else, but it's showing up as an anxiety in your body because you're actually not allowing the real feeling to exist in its kind of pure form. So what am I talking about? In this kind of a time period, it might be sadness, or it might be helplessness, or it might be anger, or it might be disappointment, right? It might be those kinds of feelings that really kind of, in my mind, form the basis of grief, that would be common experiences for people to be feeling right now. But rather than say, I'm sad or I feel helpless, and even not even be able to recognize that, then that's a piece of it. There's one other point, if I can take it one step further.
Yes.
The idea, the other element for me around vulnerability is that it's not just that we are all vulnerable in a very legitimate, concrete way right now. What's also changed for most of us is our awareness about feeling vulnerable. So what I think changes is not that we're not necessarily vulnerable, but the degree to which we are aware that we are vulnerable is the thing that's changed. But in this case, I would say it's both. It's there's true, concrete, legitimate vulnerability that exists, both at the minimum because of the virus and because of the economic circumstances.
Yeah.
And what's also changed is that we're all in touch with our vulnerability. What I would love to have changed even further is that we take that one step more and understand that it's the degree to which we are aware that we're vulnerable has also changed.
I think that's the real snap. And speaking of financial vulnerability, Deborah, you and I have talked about, kind of the energy behind money and so forth. And I think that we're going to use the word vulnerable, that feeling of all that uncertainty behind everything that we're seeing. I've been watching the stock market, and it's just pure craziness. This is completely uncharted waters. So you do energy medicine. And so explain to everyone, first of all, this concept of energy medicine. We can't see it. We can't hear it. Is it real? And there's going to be a lot of skeptics out there that are going to say this is woo-woo. So explain to us, is this science-based? Tell us what it is.
All right, so all skeptics welcome. You're all welcome to the family here. We know from science that everything is energy. Everything. Your body is a mass of particles of energy, light, and information, vibrational information. Everything you see that appears to be physical. Now, money is also energy. This is what's so fascinating. It's a symbol, the piece of paper, the coins, it's a symbol of exchange for my energy. You come to me, you get my services. In exchange for my services, you give me the paper. You want your toilet paper, you go and you exchange the money. It's energy exchange in a form that we look at as physical. Now, we have a love of money in our world. We love it. We love that form of energy. But there's a misunderstanding about it. And so people think, well, if it's either in supply or it's gone, or people look at it from, I need to hold on to it in order to keep it and have it. But the real truth is that everything is always changing. And if there's no flow, no circulation of energy, this is how sickness occurs. So if you think of water, and if it doesn't flow, if there's no circulation and it gets dammed up, you get algae, you get bacteria, you get dis-ease. Well, it's the same with life. If all of our energy, the energy of money, has to keep flowing and circulating. And what people do when they're shocked and when things like we're experiencing right now is they tend to freeze up, hold on, constrict, restrict, and hold on tight to everything they have, which actually creates the very lack that they're afraid of experiencing. So it seems very counterintuitive, very paradoxical. But in times like this, if you're worried about money, the best thing you can do is start to give something away. It would be great and very healing for people to actually give a little money away. But if you can't do that, just give your time, your energy, your smile, your love, something, give it away, because what you give comes back to you multiplied. It's an energetic, scientific principle. This is not Deborah's woo-woo make-believe.
Well, I know you believe in that because I know that you've given me so much and you've always been so gracious about it that I know that you truly believe that there is an energy exchange there.
Absolutely. And often where you give your energy out, it may not come back to you from the person, place, or thing that you gave it to, but energy will come back. It must.
That's interesting. I have to bring Nick into this one because Nick, I think there's an exchange here. There's a cross-pollination of beliefs. So explain how tapping fits into this energy model that Deborah was talking about, and what is tapping and how does it work?
Yeah, absolutely. Not only Deborah, but also what Sharon and Joan talked about with the foundation of stress, right? Where we are looking at uncertainty and lack of control, the two main criteria in stress. I don't need to tell everyone listening that this situation is as stressful as can be, but I think it helps to acknowledge just why it's so stressful. It's what Sharon and Joan talked about. It's so stressful because we can't control any of it and we feel uncertain about the future. Of course, we can't control some things like showing up tonight with, which Sharon mentioned, the 200, 300 people who are here live now, committed to changing their lives. And that's what the tapping does. So tapping, EFT, we call it that because we are literally physically tapping on endpoints of meridians of our body. Now, I have been skipping the face points recently because I get yelled at in case people haven't washed their hands. So there's face points. I'm going to add some points. I'm going to take you through it in a minute. What the latest research shows is that when we tap on these endpoints of meridians, we send a calming signal to the amygdala in the brain, the fight, flight, or freeze response center. So we are telling our bodies that it's safe. We are acknowledging the situation. We start by looking at the anxiety. We start by looking at the stress. We acknowledge, you know what? This is really hard what's happening right now. I am anxious. I feel sad. I feel grief. These are the feelings I have. And then when we acknowledge that with that physical component, then we have the ability to let it go. I just had a study across my desk, talking about energy medicine, which tapping is part of. And yeah, you could think some of these things are woo-woo, but the research is coming in fast and furious. And this study, which was actually a replication study, which I love, all the smart doctors here will know that replication studies like, okay, someone did a study, let's see if we can repeat it, because some of the best supposed studies they can't repeat them, right? So replication study, and they did salivary cortisol. So they did spit into a tube, you measure cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone in the body. And there were 3 groups. One group tapped for an hour in a group setting. So it actually wasn't one-on-one. It was like what we're going to do together in a group setting. The second group did psychoeducation. So they talked about things. And then the third group sat there for an hour reading magazines. The tapping group had a 43% decrease in cortisol in an hour. Huge number, absolutely huge number. Psychoeducation group, a 19% decrease. Hey, that's great. That shows that when we begin to explore these things, think about these things, we can drop the cortisol. I think my favorite part, the reading magazines group had an increase of 2% in cortisol, right? So when we talk about not looking at the news that much and, not like just sitting there reading a magazine, cortisol went up. So about a 45% difference between those people. And someone mentioned earlier the immune system. I know it's easier said than done, but look, I'm taking my vitamin C and my vitamin D and my zinc and all those things. But the first thing I'm doing is keeping my stress down, because we all know that when we're stressed, when we're overwhelmed, when we're overworked, that's when things kick up. That's when we lose our power. That's when we lose control of the situation that we're dealing with, which is what many of us are facing now.
They are. And so we're looking forward to, at some point in this conversation, we're going to have you take us through some tapping to help us through a lot of these emotions that we're having. And Sharon, Dr. Melnick, I know that you deal a lot with corporate America and a lot of people out there in the workforce. So how would you, as a leader, how would you tell everyone, or how would you help move people through what they're feeling about losing their job or finances or watching the unemployment rate, all of that kind of stuff plummet? How would you address them? How would you enlighten them and empower them as you do?
Yeah. So let me speak to people in the workforce, and then I want to speak more generally about a kind of a mindset to get yourself out of that fear moment. So as we were talking about, a leader creates the weather on the team. And, there's been research that shows that kind of the best leadership message, like the best tone for a leader, is one of realistic optimism. And it kind of builds on what Dr. Berkins was saying about, as a parent, because that activates a positive image of the future. It's not like, these kind of catastrophic scenarios that we're playing in our mind that lead to the emotions that Dr. Rosenberg was talking about. And it makes people feel like there's something that they can do to contribute toward an outcome that will be successful, or at least be able to adapt along the way. And the realistic part of it is important, as Dr. Berkins was saying, because a leader who has a falsely reassuring message, at this point, you'll lose credibility. You have to really match and empathize and reflect back to where your people are now in order to move them, right? In order for them to feel like you're in it with them. And it sets that expectation of, this may take longer than we hoped for, or, we may have to really, go through sacrifices. So I think that that's one thing that a leader can do. And then just, generally speaking, we're talking here about we're in fear, and we're all worried about how is this going to affect us. And then, we're not so constructive in our behaviors, right? And, we might either snap at other people in our household, or we might kind of numb out, or we just, any of the things that we might be doing that, or we just get overwhelmed, right? And we kind of spin, and we feel paralyzed in making decisions. So, and I experienced this at the beginning. I definitely had a fear moment, as we were all, referring to at the beginning. And I thought maybe I could share with you some of the questions that I started to ask myself, that I want to invite you and your listeners to ask yourself these kinds of things. So one of the questions that I think is really helpful, really moved me, is how might this situation have happened for me, not to me? Right? Because that immediately will help you think about kind of putting you back in control. And then it helps you really think about, okay, what might be the opportunity here? And I do see people circulating a lot of things online of, new skills that they're going to learn, or, new habits that they're going to pick up, or new ways of taking care of themselves. But, just really thinking about how might this have happened for you and not to you. The first time you hear it, it might turn your head around like, what? How, might I? But it's very empowering. Another question that is very empowering is to think about, so who do I want to be as I go through this? Right? Or who do I want to be on the other side of this? And what's so important about these questions is that it's really helping you to be intentional, right? Again, there's so much out there that we can't control, but who you show up as in each and every interaction, that you can control. So if you start to really make a list, or really think about who do I want to be? Who do I want to be for myself? Who do I need to be for my team, for my family, etc. So that's another question. And then, really in the heat of the moment, a question that can kind of get you out of that hijack is, thinking, projecting yourself into the future, and almost asking yourself, what is the best thing I wish I would do, would have done in this moment, and see if you can almost consult your future self and get some of that high price consultation right there, you know what I mean, of what could I do in this moment. And then, the final thing, just to harken back to what Joan was saying, is, in terms of the triggers of the panic that we're feeling, also it's sort of, we're bringing with us everything kind of that we were experiencing or living in our life before. And so some of us, all of us really, because it's human, have in our own way some sort of a kindling, right? That is getting this situation, this pandemic is the match that is, activating. So when we say you react, it is a reactivation of that kindling that you have inside of you. And so you use this opportunity to really reflect, to go deep in terms of like what personally about, things that I might have regretted or been concerned about, or that were unresolved, or that I didn't figure out or get clarity on, coming into this situation, because it's such, and like, that's really an opportunity of something that you can control. And I think that that's going to be increasingly important to kind of have a sense of that for yourself, as if for any of you that are kind of sheltering in place with other people, pretty soon we're going to start to get on each other's nerves. Okay. And so
What do you mean pretty soon?
Okay. So it's going to be really important for you, to have a sense of like, not that I associate my partner or my kids, whoever it is, with the constrictions and the stress, because it's not about them. It's about something that got activated, in me, my own frustration, et cetera. And then I think it's, again, back to this idea, less reactive, more intentional, whether that's on your team, whether it's in your household, in your relationships. And really, I think it's a great opportunity for us to even be having discussions on teams, okay, we like, how can we reset, and like, what's the culture we want to have now, in our households? How do we want to go through this together? What does everybody need? You know what I mean? And then to be intentional. And when everyone is, can be intentional and have skin in the game toward that kind of common vision that we have of how to go through this together. And then for couples, date night's going to have to become sacred. You're going to have to figure out a way of doing it, carving out a space in where you live. And I just think like extreme sport compassion for the people that you live with, as well as very intentional about what you need and who needs to be in what corner of the space, at what time, in order to manage their own needs.
I think that extreme sport compassion, absolutely, 100%. Dr. Berkins, you said to me that in some ways, this is the best thing to happen to family and kids. Explain that.
I think it's true. And to Sharon's point about sort of reframing it for ourselves and thinking about how could this be happening for me instead of to me? I think that we really think about what the silver linings are. And one of the big silver linings of this is that we have a reset happening in terms of families, in terms of people spending time together, in terms of recalibrating priorities. And that's something that's needed to happen for a while. While it's wonderful that kids get to participate in all kinds of activities and, that kind of thing, what we've seen over the last couple of generations is families getting busy and busy and busy to the point where it really has created dysfunction in a lot of families. Parents and children not spending time with each other, kids feeling so pressured and so rushed and pulled in so many directions and not even getting enough sleep, and parents feeling like, they're just flying from one thing to the next. And so what this situation has created is an opportunity to recalibrate that for all of us as parents, as kids, as families, to say what's really important. And here we are, and life has been forced to slow down. And actually kids are really thriving with that. It's funny, I was talking to two of my clinicians today. We're doing telehealth, so we're talking over the computer, and they were like, most of our families are doing really great, and kids are thriving right now. They're actually really benefiting, especially our teens, from getting enough sleep, from being able to just have a slower pace of life. Kids are exploring things that they haven't had the time to explore. So certainly while there are challenges, there are real benefits to this. Parents getting to know their kids, people spending time around the dinner table. I've been preaching about the value of sitting down even for 20 minutes to have family meals. Well, guess what? People are doing that now. And there's so many research-based benefits of that for kids and for adults. So I think that is really the silver lining of all of this. And while it's, always a difficult thing when it's kind of a crisis or an anxiety producing thing like an illness that forces this to happen, there really can be some important resetting of this, recalibrating, and really we can all come out of situations like this far better off than we were before we entered them. So I think that's an important mindset shift for people.
So you talked about resetting, and I love the whole concept of resetting. Deborah, tell us your best practices with energy medicine, because what I love about what Deborah and Nick does is that they provide immediate relief and immediate benefits by using your body. And I think that's really priceless. So Deborah, talk to us a little bit about, I know that you have your own practice and that you instruct thousands of people on how to heal their body in many different ways. And I know for one thing, I can talk about feeling connected to the earth, immunity, feeling safe, all of these kind of things. We have to release this unknown. And so what you do allows the person to have the power of release. So how can people release their emotions and let it move through their body?
So I love what everyone's saying. When I work with people, it's always three areas. It is the thinking mind. We have to examine the thoughts that are really not serving us, and they're connected to the feelings, and those emotions are energy. I'm the energy girl here, but the energy needs to be in motion and be released. And when it's not, it implodes and it shows up as symptoms and literally pain symptoms and other symptoms of disease. And the number one thing I've found is that we're terrified of these feelings. And so when feelings come up, I know Joan will attest to this, that when the feelings come up, people are like, I don't want to feel that. I do not want to feel that. I'm going to stop it. And as you were saying a moment ago, Kellyanne, emotions need to be energy in motion. So to release them, the first thing that has to happen is feel them. I think Nick mentioned this a moment ago. We have to actually just acknowledge the pure physical sensation. Our body's giving us feedback. That's all. It's the meaning that we give it that gives us the trouble. So did you want me to go into the experience of it now, or are we?
Well, let's hold off on that for a second, because what I'd like to do, because we're going to end with Deborah taking us through a kind of a healing, a mantra, so to speak, a healing mantra. Sure. Nick, I want to know how to do this tapping. I want everyone to know how to do this tapping. I want to give a little bit of a personal testimonial here. So when I first got into this business many years ago, as many people have, I had a fear of public speaking. Yeah, I did. I'm not kidding. I had a fear. So I am not kidding you. So I was introduced to tapping. I thought they were out of their mind. So I was told, I thought, how am I going to do this? There's so much I want to do. I have to be able to speak. And so I went to see a person to do tapping. And I have to tell you, I've been introduced to everything, and being in this business a long time, I've seen everything from spray vitamins that were going to be the thing, to every magical elixir in the world that you can put on any pulse point in your body and it's going to work. I mean, I've seen it all. And so I have to tell you, when I did this tapping, I met with a practitioner and they went through it with me, and I am not kidding you. And I want everyone to hear me. One treatment. And, I'm not kidding you. I still don't understand how exactly that happened. I really don't. But I had a treatment. Maybe it was just my belief. Maybe it was just a belief system that overtook, but it did really help me and it worked. So take us through a tapping. Take us through something that can help us to release, I think, the big fear that a lot of us have right now, or vulnerability, excuse me, Dr. Rosenberg, one of the vulnerabilities that we fear right now is we want to feel safe. So how can tapping help us to feel safe? Can you take us through something?
Yeah, let's do a process together. And and I'm with you. I still wake up every morning and go, how does this thing work exactly? And, see testimonial after testimonial. Every time someone says, oh, I had chronic back pain for 20 years that went away yesterday, or a fear of flying that went away in 3 sessions, I still am blown away by it. So you are not alone, but let's have an experience. So we've talked a lot about anxiety and fear, and we've also talked about our bodies and what we feel in our bodies. I think a great place to experience tapping is to actually, especially now it's so topical, tune into our breath. So everyone at home, just go ahead and take a gentle breath in right now. And let it go. And do one more, and I want you to tune in and pay attention to how constricted your breath feels. How tight does it feel? So you probably know what a big, relaxed, open breath would feel like into your belly. No fear, no anxiety. And then you might also notice, whoa, this breath is up in my chest and I feel anxiety. Tune into that breath and tune into any anxiety you feel about this situation, about everything that's going on, and give it a number on a scale of 0 to 10. So 10 would be the most anxious, 0 would be no fear, no anxiety. Whatever number comes up for you. And you can tap with eyes open or closed if you know the process, and just follow after me. We're going to start tapping on the side of the hand. It's called the karate chop point, whatever hand feels comfortable for you. And repeat after me, either in your mind or out loud. Even though I have all this anxiety in my body,
Even though I have all this anxiety in my body,
it's safe to relax now.
it's safe to relax now.
We're going to do that 2 more times, staying on the side of the hand. Even though it feels like it's hard to breathe,
Even though it feels like it's hard to breathe,
because there's so much going on,
because there's so much going on,
so much uncertainty,
so much uncertainty,
so much vulnerability,
so much vulnerability.
and I'm not used to feeling this way.
And I'm not used to feeling this way.
But with all these feelings,
But with all these feelings,
I choose to feel safe now.
I choose to feel safe now.
We're going to do it 1 more time, even though I have all the stress in my body
Even though I have all the stress in my body
about what's going on,
about what's going on,
I love and accept myself.
I love and accept myself.
Now we're going to tap through the points, and we're going to start at the top of the head, just tapping gently, and just tune in to that breath and that anxiety. Don't worry about saying anything out loud here. Now, as I said, I'm going to skip the face points, but it's okay. In the app, it goes through all the face points, but we want to follow CDC guidelines as much as possible during this process. So tapping for the 2 little bones of the collarbone, you go right below it. And I want you to tap gently and just take a gentle breath in. And just notice that anxiety, that fear, that vulnerability. These last couple weeks have been a lot. Recognize that for yourself. Recognize just how hard you've been working. The fact that you've shown up here tonight is a testament to your commitment to reduce stress, to be vulnerable, to feel safe being vulnerable, and to be a leader. The next point, underneath the arm, 3 inches underneath the armpit, right on the broad line for women, either side of the body, whatever's comfortable for you. And just noticing that anxiety, noticing everything you've been holding on to the last couple weeks. On the wrist point, we're going to do the 2 wrists together, just like this, tapping gently, and take another gentle breath in. Just notice what you're feeling. Move to the back of the hand. It's called the 9 gamut, into that little crease right in there. This is a point that can help us feel safe. Tapping on the back of the hand. And just say out loud or in your mind, I am safe.
I am safe.
Tapping gently, breathing gently. We'll do 1 more quick round through the main points, back to the top of the head. I am safe.
I am safe.
And feel that feeling in your body. These are words that we say, but we also want to actualize them in our body. move to the collarbone. What would it feel like to feel safe right now?
Safe right now.
Just feel that. Underneath the arm, letting go. Wrist, feeling safe. Back of the hand, all is well. And you can gently stop tapping and take a breath in. And let it go. So that was 2 quick modified rounds in the app. We actually go through the face points so we don't add those other points that you can. And then we tune back in. So now we go, all right, my anxiety was an 8. Now it's a 7 or a 6 or a 5. Tune in, what happened to your breath? I know every time I do it, my breath just sinks so much deeper into my belly. It's like, whoa, I've been walking around all day with all this tightness in my chest, and then it just opens up. We follow that process, not to pitch the app, but it is free to download. There's 21 meditations just on coronavirus anxiety in there right now. So we have like pregnant during a pandemic, which just came out 2 days ago, because that is a huge deal that pregnant women are struggling with. Nicole, we have 4 for kids, all different ages, and I would love your feedback on how we address it. We talk about the buggies for under 5 and different ages. My brother did those meditations. We have release constricted breathing. There's another 180 otherwise for tapping, but we've just been doing as many as possible around this specific issue. And I also want to throw out that if anyone watching or listening is a healthcare worker or a first responder, we're giving away 6 months of the premium app for free for any healthcare workers and first responders. We've had 2,700 people take us up on that so far, nurses and doctors, and the stories that they write are incredible. And you can sign up for free for that at thetappingsolutionapp.com/responder. So find your nurse friend. I mean, these amazing people are working so hard. They were stressed and overwhelmed to start with, and now we're piling this on top of them. This is a quick technique, 5 or 10 minutes a day will absolutely transform your life.
Thanks for doing that, Nick. I really appreciate it. I've been talking to my friends that are first line responders, and they're going through more than we can possibly imagine. So no matter what emotion you feel, just know that you're in a surrounding that's really, we're very blessed. We're very blessed because there's a lot of people out there really risking a lot to help us. So thanks for doing that, Nick. I appreciate it. It's a wonderful little pattern there. Deborah, you are going to take us through a little ending exercise. But before we do that, is there anything else that you can briefly state, panel? Briefly state, because we're really out of time. We've gone over, but I thought this was really essential tonight. Is there anything that you want to tell everyone to let them know that they're safe and okay? Starting with you, Dr. Rosenberg, is there anything that you'd want to tell everyone if you had a moment to tell them?
She's muted.
Dr. Rosenberg.
Sorry about that. I had myself muted. I wouldn't be able to tell you anything. I would have people remind themselves of 2 or 3 things. One is to remind themselves that they are capable and resourceful. So it's pretty consistent with what Nick just walked us through. Not only are we safe, just remind yourself that you're capable and resourceful. You've been through hard times before, and you have the resourcefulness to make your way through this unknown, kind of unpredictable time and uncertain time as well. And the second is stay well connected to you and well connected to others, so that you can be well resourced in those ways as well. And don't let the circumstances and the conditions define you. Hold a vision of the future that you still look forward to. We don't know what it's going to look like, but hold a vision for it, and hold attitudes that can help you maintain your optimism and your resilience.
Thank you, Dr. Melvin.
One other element, and just you asked before, the resilience checklist.
Yes. Please. Yes.
So the resilience checklist is now pulled out of the book. It's available for anybody. Just a simple resource of resilient attitudes. It's a resilience attitude, intention, and action checklist. It's available on my website at drjoanrosenberg.com/stay up.
Stay up. I highly recommend
Stay up.
everyone get that checklist. It's very useful, very useful. So Nick, we've got an app. Joan, we've got your resource guide at your website. Dr. Melnick, one last concise, short little statement that you can give everyone to help them feel safe, and tell everyone where they can find you.
Am I back on?
Are you there, Sharon? Okay, so
Like she's frozen.
we've got a little glitch in that. If we can try to fix that, Stacy. Dr. Berkins, can you tell us one little clip that will help people feel safe, and where can they reach you?
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm sorry, my internet just went in and
We're
out here.
back on. Forget about you, Dr. Berkins. Okay.
Karen.
Sorry, there's so many of us using the internet right now.
Yeah, let's keep this short and concise because we've gone way over, but I want you to impart some wisdom.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I just want you to kind of remember that mantra, that actually there's so much more that you can control than you think you can, right? And so really kind of be impeccable for your 50% and put your time and energy and attention into what that is. And in my book, Success Under Stress, I have a whole toolkit for things that you can control, like in your own physiology, your own psychology, and problem solving, especially in your career life. So head on over to drsharonmelnick.com and, sharonmelnick.com, and we'll make the chapter on how you can control what you can control. We'll make that available to you there, sharonmelnick.com. Thanks.
Thank you, Powerhouse. Dr. Berkins, what is a word of wisdom that you can impart on everyone?
I think just to remember that through adversity comes growth, and what an amazing opportunity to model that for our kids and to help them learn even at early ages how they can grow through things that are difficult. And that this is an opportunity to get refocused on what's really important.
Wonderful. And where can we find you, Dr. Berkins?
drberkins.com. And I have some videos and some things there that people can access on how to talk to your kids about this, how to work through disappointments, things that are going on with kids and parents. So feel free to access those.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And Nick, you want everyone to go to your app, right? That is the resource.
I want everyone to listen to these fabulous women I'm surrounded with, and then just tap on with their wisdom. So you bring tapping in on a daily basis, you'll find a lot more peace during these troubling times.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Deborah, so we're going to end with you. Give everyone an imparting word of wisdom, and you're going to do just a closing little mantra to get everyone's emotions flowing through them, or whatever it is that you feel that would be best serving everyone. So what would you like to say?
And let me also share that there are 3 videos with very practical exercises you can do at home and with your kids. One to clear damaging thoughts, one to clear those heavy, anxious, emotional feelings, and one is me helping you clear your energy field. And you can access those at www.internationalcpi.com. Final words of wisdom.
Yes.
The present moment, right here, this moment that we're all in, right here and now. It's all we really know. It's all we really have. It's where all the power is. We like to think, as Joan pointed out, that we know what's in the future, but we really only know now, and you're safe. Look at your hands and feet. Take a breath in. Bring yourself here, not somewhere in the future, not somewhere in the past, right here. And recognize you're safe. You're safe. And I'm going to guide you through a little deeper experience so that you can allow the feelings that you're experiencing to come up without the need to deny, suppress, repress, binge eat, or drink yourself out of them. So if everyone who's watching would just close your eyes for a moment, I want you to just feel yourself, first of all, just sitting on the chair. Feel the furniture underneath you. I want you to become aware of your inner experience. Just notice how you're feeling in your body. Notice any sensations going on inside you. Your body may feel like it just wants to squirm and move and shift. Let your body move if it starts to move, or if you feel like moving. And I want you to begin to scan from the top of your head to the tips of your toes inside yourself. And just notice how you feel inside. Notice that inner experience. And wherever you're feeling the most discomfort, I want you to go right there. Maybe it's in your chest, maybe your stomach. I want you to go to the area that feels the most uncomfortable and feel the pure physical sensation of what you're feeling, what you're experiencing. And without any judgment, without any labels of good, bad, right, or wrong, allow that sensation to come up. Ask it to come up. Every drop of it, let that sensation come up. It's just energy. It's just a feeling. Allow yourself to feel it now. Ask it to come up and notice what happens when you allow it to be there. Now scan your body again. Find another area that's talking to you, that's uncomfortable. Notice the pure physical sensation and allow it to come up. It's just a feeling, it's just energy. There's nothing to fear. Feel it, experience it. Ask it to come up. And now take your attention to your heart area, right in the center of your chest. And as you take your awareness to your heart, I'd like you to think of someone or something that you love. Think of someone or something you love and feel the feeling of someone or something you love. And allow that feeling to grow stronger. Imagine that feeling has a color. What color would it be? And allow the feeling and the color of that love to begin to flow through your whole body, your whole being. Feel and experience and imagine the color and the feeling of the love. And feel it filling every cell of your being now. And imagine a doorway in the center of your heart and open that doorway wide open and allow the feeling and the color of the love to flow out from you, out into the entire world. And know that you're connected to the love inside of you, around you, and with every other living being at every moment in time. In any time you're feeling uncomfortable, you can return to your heart area, to the love. It's always there with you, around you, flowing through you at every single moment. Take a breath in and a breath out. And here we are, back in this present now moment.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much, Deborah. And I know you offer that to so many people around around the country, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate all of you tonight. It's been wonderful, and thank you for everyone who's been watching and listening. We hope that we've been able to inspire and enlighten you. And these are all great doctors, and we're getting a lot of thank yous coming in and a lot of questions and comments, and we will get to those at another evening. We've been here a long time, and the reason why I've allowed this to go on so long is because I know the need for this type of information right now. So we are all leaving you with grace, with love, and with all the respect to really help you feel empowered. Signing off. Lots of love. Bye-bye.